Welcome to the Ghostly Gallery podcast, a place where we explore the world of horror and mystery in film, television, books, and in popular culture. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Bruce Markison, and once again, I'm joined by co-host and producer Tracy Asteria. Tracy, what'd you do for New Year's?
Oh my goodness, Bruce. It was a quiet New Year's, so I binged watched 28 days, the whole part 1, part 2, part 3. So 28 days, 28 weeks, 28 years. I watched them all. And I was actually, after our conversation with Kirk last week, I was like, I think I really need to see the 28 Years Later movie. And I wasn't disappointed. It was really, really good. And I'm actually looking forward to the new movie that's coming out, and I think it's like in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, just it'll be interesting to see it. How about you?
Well, you told me that you're not that big of a fan of zombies, but you like this series of movies, so that's interesting.
Yeah, it's I like The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead was like a good series for me.
Yeah.
But I don't usually gravitate towards like zombie type movies or anything like that. And this set of movies was actually really, really well done. Really well
Yeah.
done. I was impressed.
Very good. As far as what I did New Year's Eve, the answer is absolutely nothing. Sue and I stayed home. Sue slept for the early part of the evening. I then woke her up at 11 p.m. Eastern time, so that we could watch the Jimmy Fallon New Year's Eve special on Fox. He's very funny. We enjoyed watching that. And then we switched over to Dick Clark's New Year's Eve on ABC. Ryan Seacrest, of course, now is the host of that. And then once midnight struck, Sue went back upstairs, went back to bed, and I turned something else on. So it was a fairly uneventful night. Though I should mention that during the break, and I've been home for about 2 weeks before I finally went back to work the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I did watch, I was able to get access from a friend to HBO Max, and I saw the first 8 episodes of It, Welcome to Derry. And we
Oh,
need to do a
nice.
show on that at some point. It's really well done. For those who haven't seen it, it's basically set in 1962 in this imaginary town of Derry, Maine, which is really part of the Stephen King universe.
Mm-hmm.
And it provides us with an origin story for Pennywise the clown. Some really good performances by both veteran actors like James Remar and Bill Skarsgård, who is back as the clown, Pennywise. Also, a young actress named Clara Stack played one of the young kids, Lily, really good. A lot of references to other Stephen King movies and TV series. There's a character, Dick Halloran, who is the character that Scatman Crothers played on the original The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy who has that ability to shine, and he shows Danny Torrance how to do that, how to harness that ability. But there's also references to The Shawshank Redemption, The Mist, and several other Stephen King vehicles. So it's a worthy show to talk about. I know you've asked me a few times if I've gotten to see it. I finally did so, and it was worth the time, without a doubt.
Oh, nice. You're one step ahead of me. I haven't seen it all yet, so I guess I better get cracking on that too.
And you've got HBO Max, right?
I have. It's on Crave in Canada, the Crave app. So I
Oh, okay.
have the Crave app. Yeah,
Interesting. I never heard of that.
yeah,
Crave.
Crave.
All right. Well, that's what we did over the break. Whether that's eventful or not, I'll leave that up to the listeners and viewers to decide. And those of us watching on YouTube may notice our new background that I've got. Ghostly Gallery Podcast is displayed behind me, and I'll give you the origin story for that. This was one of my surprise Christmas gifts from my daughter, Maddie. She bought me a green screen and also kind of a tapestry for the podcast, which we're debuting tonight. So I think it's kind of cool.
Very nice. It looks
You like
really,
it?
really good. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So we're excited about that. So change is coming in the new year to the Ghostly Gallery. Well, Tracy, on this week's episode, we're going to discuss two films that came out in the past year, 2025, and they were somewhat overshadowed by big hits like Sinners and Weapons, which we've talked about. But both of these films, I think, also merit some discussion. I know that you're a big fan of both of them, and you really made me aware of them. The first is called Bring Her Back, which debuted in the spring of 2025. And the second one is the latest movie from Osgood Perkins called Keeper, and that's a November release. So we're going to go in depth on both of these films. So, Tracy, start us up with our first film of the night, Bring Her Back. Tell us about it.
So, Bring Her Back is a 2025 Australian supernatural folk horror film directed by the Philippou brothers. The film was released in the United States on May 30th of 2025. So the story follows teenage siblings Andy and his visually impaired younger sister Piper. They're still in shock after the sudden death of their abusive father. The two are left with nowhere else to go, and they're placed in foster care with a lady named Laura. So, when you first see Laura, she's very kind, she appears very warm and gentle, and she's really eager to help. But it doesn't really take long before the feeling sets in that something's really not right. The whole house feels off. There's really strange rules going on. And Laura's kindness is a little bit over the top, and it's really quite unsettling. And we soon learn that she's deeply grieving the loss of her own blind daughter, Kathy. So that's kind of really important. And without Andy and Piper realizing it, Laura's grief has transformed into a very dangerous obsession with bringing her daughter back from the dead. So that's basically what this whole story is about. But we come to find out a little bit more. So now we find out that also living in this house is a very mysterious young boy. His behavior is very disturbing, kind of unnatural, and very impossible to ignore. And this immediately raises Andy's suspicions. So as the days pass, strange events start to happen, unsettling behavior escalates, and the whole atmosphere in the home grows really claustrophobic. And what once felt like a refuge becomes a trap. So it's it's really interesting. Right at that point, you know bad things are happening. So Bring Her Back pulls no punches at all. This film layers psychological manipulation. There's touches of the occult and rituals. There's supernatural horror, raw emotional trauma, and it's very brutal and it's very deeply unsettling. And at the center of it is this foster mother who's consumed by grief and obsession. And these children, all of these children, are caught in the path of something that demands sacrifice. So as the story builds, the tension ramps up. And by the final act, Andy and Piper are forced to make very split decisions in the face of this danger. Laura's obsession pushes the situation to extreme limits, and it's very, very unpredictable, both emotionally and physically. And I don't want to give too much more away because this story takes so many twists and turns. You really have to you have to keep close tabs on it. But the ending of this film is so intense and so suspenseful. It just shows how far grief and desperation can drive someone. And this movie keeps the audience guessing right up to the very last minute. And it is it is a wild ride. I guess I'm just going to say it's a wild ride. And what did you think of this? This actually came recommended by Toby Poser, who we chatted
Mhm.
with a few weeks ago. And that's what put it on my radar. So I was like, okay, she recommended it. I have to watch it. And I wasn't disappointed. What about you?
Yeah, remember Toby and John Adams, the Adams family, two really great people and wonderful independent filmmakers. They both highly recommended it. This film, Bring Her Back, is kind of a movie that I think they would make because it
Hmm.
is claustrophobic. A lot of it is set in a kind of a single location in a house or in the backyard where there's also a pool. So it's all kind of centrally localized, and there's basically four main characters and a couple of peripheral as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, it kind of struck me as almost an Adams Family type film, the way that they approach filmmaking. I think in this case, they probably had a bigger budget.
Yeah.
The Adams Family, they do stuff on a very low budget, but overachieve and make their films really good. A few things right off the bat. I could tell right away something was off about this character of Laura taking in the two kids right from the start. I knew she was off her rocker, just the way she was acting. I mean, making Andy, the young boy, kiss the dead body of his father at the funeral. I mean, insisting that he do it, forcing him to do it. Really? That was just bizarre behavior.
Yes.
Now that does happen a little bit later in the film, but right from the beginning, you could also tell that Laura really didn't have much interest in caring for Andy. She's introduced to him. I assume she's been given his name already and
Hmm.
some information about him. And then, like the second time she calls him out as his name, she says Anthony, not Andy. So, right there, that's a bad sign that she doesn't
Yes.
even get his name right. She just met him. I mean, come on, she know the name. She doesn't make that same mistake with Piper. It's obvious she's a lot more interested in Piper and not really interested with Handy at all.
Hmm.
And then the thing with the urine, I mean, that's just bizarre. She pours it on Andy in the middle of the night. So when he wakes up, he thinks she's been wetting the bed. And he's what? He's got to be 16, 17, maybe 8. He's going to be 18 soon.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean that's disturbing to do something like that. And you actually see in this one scene Laura is taking urine and depositing it on his body while he's dead asleep.
Hmm.
And then later in the film, even more disturbing, again, middle of the night, this time Piper is sleeping. Laura goes to the bed and smacks Piper hard enough to knock her unconscious. And this was all part of a plan so that the next morning she could accuse Andy of being the one to abuse his sister.
Hmm.
So basically, there's a plan to frame him for abuse. So this is the kind of stuff that Laura is doing from the beginning, and then it just escalates. It gets even more serious. They start out as small transgressions, and they get gradually worse. And you can tell that
Right.
Laura is she's crazy. I'm sorry, she's crazy.
No, absolutely. I mean, those are definite red flags right away, like all of those. And, she's drugging Andy too. So she's putting some
Mm,
kind of I guess it's a sedative or something that she's putting in I guess his protein drinks or whatever that he drinks. And that's what knocks him out. So
yeah.
he doesn't wake up through the night, but it's all in the attempt to just get him out of the picture so she can have Piper all to herself and use her as a vessel to bring her daughter back, which
Mm,
is just wild. But yeah, I mean, Laura, she is definitely an over the top character. And what really kind of, I think when she first met Piper and Andy and she introduced she introduced them to her taxidermy dog. Right then and there, I was like,
right.
"Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
This is not gonna go well." So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was another weird part of the introduction. Yeah. That
that
was
was
strange.
really early, and Oh, that was just kind of like, oh, yeah. But,
Yeah.
there's so many weird things in this movie, and the characters are absolutely excellent. Like, the lady that plays Laura,
Mm,
her name is Sally Hawkins, and she's a wonderful actress. She plays this part really, really well. She's so believable, and just the way that she plays Laura, you can see her personality unraveling really quite quickly, and it's to the point where it's, like, super uncomfortable to watch because you just know that the longer the movie goes on, the worse she gets, and she's, like,
mm,
hyper vigilant about just kind of, like, keeping everything together, and when she kind of goes about some of the rituals, it just sends me right on edge. The way she does it is super creepy. I'll say very super creepy.
yeah.
And the boy is played by Andy Barrett, and these are all very well-known actors, I guess. I don't know if they're English actors or they're Australian actors because it's an Australian film. But, the fellow that plays Andy, he is also really good, and he's very young, but, I think he does well. And what's interesting is the young girl that plays Piper. Her name is Sora Wong, and
Mhm.
she's actually visually impaired in real life. This
Right.
was her very first acting role. And the way that she found out about this role is her mother was scrolling Facebook and came across this opportunity to audition. So she brought her daughter in, and lo and behold, she gets this role. So
Mm,
this was an amazing role for her to break out into. And you can't even tell that she's an inexperienced actress. She did so excellent. She
yeah.
was very genuine and very believable and really well done because I think she's only, I don't know, 15 years old maybe, so very young. And the other standout, which we definitely have to talk about, is the character of Ollie, who is played by Jonah Wren Phillips. Wow, he is
Mhm.
one creepy child in this movie and very, very terrifying. And in this movie, you couldn't tell initially if he was one of Laura's victims, if I can say victims, I guess, or if he was actually an accomplice to what was going to be happening. But his performance was so creepy, and I just, yeah, makes me terrified of children sometimes. So, yeah, creepy.
So, Tracy, you ran down the cast, these 4 actors, Sally Hawkins, Billy Barrett, Sora Wong, Jonah Wren Phillips. I was really not familiar with any of them coming into this movie, but they all did exceptionally good jobs. And they didn't just play these as cliched characters. Sally Hawkins, for the most part, I mean, she is bonkers and she is evil, but there is that one scene after the funeral of Andy and Piper's father. They come back to the house. They're drinking. They're trying to have a little bit of a party, I guess.
Hmm.
And she's able to get Andy to open up. And that was the one scene where she actually shows some motherly instincts, even though maybe she shouldn't be getting the boy drunk, but it did in the short term seem to help him a little bit. And then you have Andy and Piper as played by these young actors, Billy Barrett, Sora Wong. Um, they're not just solely victims; they're well rounded.
Hmm.
You know, Andy, his character, you can tell he knows something is wrong with Laura. He's really the first one
Yes.
because the way that he treats her, and a lot of times she does it not in front of Piper. So Andy's kind of being isolated and
Hmm.
he knows there are problems. Piper is being abused too, but is being done in a more subtle way when she's asleep. She's not even aware of it. So she actually has a better bond with Laura. But eventually she does come to realize that Laura is the real problem here. And then this young Jonah Wren Phillips as Ollie, he's really good. He seems to be wise beyond his years. And he does play it, as you say, in such a way that you just don't realize, is he a victim or is he part of a conspiracy with Laura? And it's
That's
not
right.
really until the final 20 minutes that the answer to that question becomes evident. So um, even though they're not big names, you don't have to necessarily have big names to have a successful film. These are actors that all did really well. Three of them are very young at near the beginning of their careers, and hopefully they'll only develop further. So that was a real strength. The cast here is a major part of this film being successful and drawing a lot of the praise that it has drawn in 2025.
Yes, oh my gosh, absolutely. This movie has been getting raves from, oh my gosh, from so many different people. I usually don't hear, um, many bad things about this film, which is really interesting, and it seems to be making people at least within the top 10 films of 2025, it seems
Yeah.
to be very, very consistent about where this is falling with the way people are rating it for the year. Absolutely. Um, but yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of standout moments. I think it's interesting to note it was filmed in Australia. It
Hmm.
was filmed in June of 2024, and it was shot in just 41 days. Now, it cost $15 million to make. It earned $39 million worldwide, and they didn't use a lot of CGI in this movie. It was mostly the use of practical effects, which
Hmm.
I think is fascinating because that really added to the creepiness. And when people go to watch this movie, they'll see exactly what you mean, because there is, um like we talked about, the character of Ollie chewing on the table, and some of the scenes involving Ollie where he was, um uh, chomping on Laura's arm at one point, like
Yeah.
that. Like that
Yeah.
is all practical effects, and it's not a gory movie, so I don't wanna give anybody the impression it was a gory movie, because it's not,
Yeah.
but it's very visceral, like, very visceral. It's
Right.
like some of these scenes, very, very unsettling, but very, very good,
Yeah.
very good.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember any CGI being used. Do you?
I don't I really don't think so. I can't I can't think of any point where it would have used CGI, because everything was so
Yeah.
real and everything was just, yeah, I can't think of anything like that,
Yeah.
but it was, yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit toward the end, there were some supernatural events toward the end of the film without getting into too much detail. So maybe something
Yeah.
happened there, but you're right, for the most part, this was all done very practically, and those kind of effects I think are always better. Always make the
Yes.
film better. And
Mhm.
they were done really well. And I'm going to talk more about young Oliver and his eating habits when I do my summation on this one, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. They It obviously made a huge profit. You talk about 15 million to make, made nearly 40 million, so nearly three times the cost. That's what they brought in terms of total revenue. So it did really well,
Mhm.
and it certainly, as you say, got plenty of critical acclaim. It was, I think, definitely a top 10 film in a very strong year for horror, and that's a good thing. I
Yep.
mean, that
Oh,
really shows.
absolutely.
Yeah. The kind of year we had in 2025, you finish in the top 10, you're accomplishing. In a normal year, you'd probably be top 3. So
Mhm.
that's
Oh
pretty
my
pretty strong.
goodness.
Yeah.
Nope, that's right. And you know, I don't think it takes in that 39 million billion million. I don't think it takes into account the streaming revenue that they would get because this is now available on streaming services
Yep.
for I think it was Amazon Prime is where I watched this one. And it's so there's revenue generated there, but yeah, definitely it's I thought it was a very successful movie, very successful.
Yeah. So what's your final rating for this one?
So interesting enough, because I did enjoy this very, very much, I gave it 3.5 stars. It was one of those movies, it was very heavy all the way through.
Mm,
Lots of shock value that we talked about. And I think that shock value worked because the grief was raw, it was unresolved. Um, Nothing felt like safe or predictable at all in this movie. Like there was nothing predictable at all. Um, the elements of the occult, it did kind of creep me out. It got under my skin. And that's only because I find that stuff a little bit unnerving anyway. Um,
yeah.
I enjoy that part of the horror genre, but it's one part that really it affects me in a different way than like a slasher film or just like a ghost story. There's
Mhm.
something different about this. Um and it just it was an uncomfortable movie, but I did give it 3.5
Mhm.
stars. I thought it was so well done from start to finish. And I will be honest, as much as I did enjoy this, I probably will not watch this one again because it's one of those movies that will stick with me. Um, but I don't think I want to see it again because I think it was just one of those ones that impacted me in a different way. So yeah, but three and
Yeah.
a half stars. It was a great movie.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
really.
Very good. My thoughts, I thought it was a good movie as well. I do have a couple of criticisms. It was a little confusing at first. The way it started, you see this VHS tape and some really weird people doing some weird things. Initially, it didn't seem to have a connection to the main story, although that is revealed later on. So I found that a bit confusing. Then it did get resolved. My biggest criticism of the film is the level of child abuse going on here. And I did find that for me personally, it was a bit much.
Hmm.
All three of the kids, Andy, Piper, Oliver, they're all victims in this film. Also, the deceased daughter of Laura. And
Yes.
we don't see her while she's living. There's really no flashback scenes, but we do see her body, which is being stored somewhere. I don't want to say where. So you've got four kids that are suffering from some form of abuse. And the scenes that you mentioned in which Oliver tries first to chew on a knife in the
Oh,
kitchen,
yes.
man,
Mm.
that was doing a number on his teeth and gums. That was hard to watch. It's like going to a nightmare dentist. That's what it kind of reminded me of. Nobody really likes who likes going to the dentist, and this is like the most unimaginable thing a dentist could do.
Mhm.
So that got me a little bit. And then later he takes a bite, and I think you mentioned this, out of that thick wooden table. He starts chewing that, and that just hurt watching that. Just the
Yes.
grinding against the teeth. Man, it was powerful, but it was a little hard to stomach. So that was unpleasant. And being someone who has a daughter, and you have kids as well,
Mhm.
it's difficult to watch when children are the subject of abuse, and it has to happen sometimes in horror films. It's part of the story. I just thought maybe it was a little bit overdone here.
Mhm.
The story itself, though, very compelling. There was just enough mystery to keep my interest all the way through until a very rousing conclusion. Lots of action, lots of unexpected turns. So I like this one, and I would have given it a little higher rating if the level of abuse was toned down. As it is, I'll give it a solid 3 stars for Bring Her Back. So
Nice.
Tracy goes 3.5. I go 3. This is a generally very well received film, one of the better horror movies of 2025. All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll catch our breath. When we come back, we'll talk about another film that is somewhat overlooked. It came out later in 2025, and that's the movie that is known simply as Keeper. Stay with us on the Ghostly Gallery. Welcome back to the Ghostly Gallery podcast. Bruce Marcuson along with Tracy Asteria. Glad to be with you in 2026, but we're looking back at some films that haven't gotten full recognition in 2025. And next up is a movie called Keeper. It's a film from Osgood Perkins, who also did The Monkey. And it's a film that we both have interesting thoughts on, I think. Tracy is a real fan of it. Tracy, tell us more about what happens in Keeper.
So I recently discovered this movie, actually just over the Christmas season. I didn't know anything about it until I was kind of scrolling through, and I was like, oh, this is a film from Osgood Perkins. I think I should watch this. So, it was released only on November the 14th of 2025. It was actually written by a gentleman by the name of Nick Leppard, and it was directed by Osgood Perkins. And this film stars Tatiana Maslany and Rossif Sutherland. And Tatiana, these are both really good actors. I'm just going to put that out there right away. So Tatiana, she's quite established. She has a huge amount of credits behind her name, and she's done previous work with Osgood. So if you didn't recognize her, she's actually the mom from the movie The Monkey. So
Right.
that is her. And of course, Rossif Sutherland is the son of Donald Sutherland and the brother of Kiefer Sutherland. So he also has a few really good, excellent credits behind his name as well. And this story follows Liz and Malcolm. So they're a couple heading out to a remote cabin to celebrate their first anniversary. On the surface, it seems like a very quiet getaway. It's peaceful, isolated, kind of romantic, but right away, something's a little bit off. Even in the car on the drive there, we see this couple exchanging pleasantries, but Liz is just a little bit distant. It's like she's trying to figure out kind of the stance of where Malcolm might be in his life. And it's just this weird tension, and it's just not settling. Like, it doesn't sit well. So
Right.
they arrive at this cabin. It's deep into the woods, very isolated. It's heavy, and it kind of, has this really weird vibe to it. They walk in, and the first thing that kind of gets your attention, there's this box on the table, and it's a cake box. And this cake actually takes center stage to this movie. And Malcolm tells Liz that it's actually a gift from the caretaker. But, right then and there, it feels like it carries a little bit more meaning than what he's letting on. So I think in Liz's head is like, well, who's the caretaker? Because she's trying to figure out in the background, even though they've been going out for a year, this was their 1-year anniversary. They're not married, they're just dating. But her friend basically is trying to tell Liz that this man is married. He has a whole separate life. So that's kind of what Liz is thinking about during the initial setup to this movie is like, are you married? What's going on? So she's trying to figure that out. And when there's this cake from the caretaker, it's like, oh, who's the caretaker? Right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting. But things get really, really strange because they're sitting down to this meal. There's this knock at the door, and it's like this is a cabin out in the middle of the woods. The knock at the door, it's unexpected visitors, and it turns out to be Malcolm's cousin, Darren, and his girlfriend, Minka. And Minka does not speak English, or so people have been told. Their presence feels very intrusive. Like it's like there's something that's going on that Liz was just never meant to be a part of. The conversations are very awkward. There's major tension, and it just becomes very clear that this trip to the cabin is not spontaneous, that it was definitely very well planned. Um, Minka, she says something to Liz about this cake because, again, it's like center stage. She sees this cake sitting on the counter, and from what we understand, Minka does not speak English. But she turns to Liz and she says basically that the cake tastes terrible. So
Yeah.
that's basically what she says. And we just kind of like let it be at that. So that's okay. So Darren and Minka leave. And later on, Malcolm actually convinces Liz to eat this small piece of chocolate cake. Now, Liz doesn't like chocolate. Malcolm is supposed to know that Liz doesn't like chocolate, but yet here's this beautiful chocolate cake, and he's trying to make sure that she has a piece. So, like this obsession about chocolate cake, very strange. You know, there's something up with it. So she she eats this cake, and later that night, Liz is sleeping. She has very bizarre dreams. In the middle of the night, she finds herself back in that kitchen. And what is she doing? She is face first in like this weird trance like state into this cake. And she like basically almost devours this whole entire cake. And it's just like so unreal. So in the morning, like I don't think she goes back to bed. She's just like she's sitting at the table. The cake is what's left of the cake, which isn't much, is like sitting on the counter. She's drawing all these weird pictures of like images that she's been seeing. And Malcolm basically, you know, gets up and says, "Oh, there you are." He notices that the cake is kind of half, well, mostly all gone. It doesn't really say much. Is all he says is that he needs to leave this remote cabin and go back to the city to see a patient. So he is a doctor. He's some kind of a doctor. So he leaves. Liz is left alone in this cabin, and reality for her starts to slip. The time feels a little bit distorted. The cabin just feels like it's a trap. She starts to see these really strange images, like ghostly figures, apparitions. Like at one point, there's like this figure of a woman with a bag on her head. And it's just, you can't tell what's real and what's imagined because at one point she sees Minka and Minka's not there. She's gone off with Malcolm's cousin. So that is a huge part. And it's very disturbing. You don't know what's going on. But Malcolm returns a little bit later. He's gone for most of the day. When he gets home, he finds Liz very distraught and demanding to go home. She has tried to get in touch with her friend, and for whatever reason, the cell phone signal couldn't connect well. She wanted to be picked up, but that didn't happen. So she wants Malcolm to take her back. He manages to calm her down for just a little bit, enough to have like this drink and to relax a little bit. And as they're just kind of like laying there, Liz asks about this patient. Like, how is this patient? And she calls this patient by name. And Malcolm responds to her with like, who? Like, who are you talking about? And then he was like, "Oh my gosh." "Oh, yeah, yeah, no, everything's great. She died." And that was like, okay, so that triggers Liz completely.
Mm.
Um, she dashes to the bathroom, she locks this door, and Malcolm comes right up behind her and opens the door, and he's like, "Don't worry, those locks are just for just for looks. Like, these locks don't work." And, in this bathroom, she sees this picture, basically, and it's a picture of Malcolm and a woman. You don't know who this woman is, but it's an old picture. It's a very, very old. And I think there's like 2 kids in this picture as well. So she's like, "Oh my God, you're married. And of course, this is
Mhm.
what this is all about." But it's not like that because Liz eventually learns what Malcolm's secret really is. And once that clicks in, she is truly terrified.
Yeah.
The cake, the visitors, the whole setup of the trip. She learns that basically there's a family ritual that's tied to this cabin. The strange visions, ghostly figures, and all of this action ramps right up. And it basically concludes in the basement. There's like a series of events that happens, and I don't want to give it away because this is such a new movie, but the ending again to this one is wild as well. Um, you just Liz tries to make sense of what's going on, but she just really can't. She tries to fight this, but she's not winning. And at the end, Liz kind of really feels what it means to be the keeper of this cabin. And the ending is it's very good. I'll just put it that way. The ending is very good. Malcolm gets exactly what he deserves, if
Right.
that makes anybody feel better. So
Mhm.
it's very intense. It's another kind of folk horror, supernatural vibe. And I don't know, I think this year there was lots of movies like that. And
Yeah.
I just think this was really interesting, really interesting.
Yeah. You mentioned at the end, Tracy, about how she's gonna be the keeper of the cabin. Up until then, though, the word keeper is used by Malcolm and his crazy cousin Darren, who's really obnoxious. Talk more about him in a moment.
Yes.
They talk about, "Oh, he's finally found a girlfriend who's a keeper. This is the keeper. This is the one he's gonna marry." So that's
Mhm.
kinda what that word means, at least until the end, and then maybe it does change at that point. Few observations. This cousin Darren, he was the cousin, not the brother, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I thought he was the brother, but no, you're right. He's the cousin. He's played by an actor named Burkett Turton. And I'll tell you what, this character is one of the most obnoxious characters I've ever seen in a horror film. He says the most inappropriate thing at just about every moment. You talk about meeting somebody for the first time, and he meets Liz for the first time. And usually you try to make a good impression on somebody, it's your cousin's new girlfriend, you want to be friendly, and instead, he just has obnoxious questions about her, and he makes them both feel uncomfortable. There's a later scene where he turns up at the cabin and she's alone. She's locked the door and she doesn't want to let him in because Malcolm is not there. But Darren says, "Well, it's my cabin too. You better open the door." And he basically insists that she opens the door. And she's, I guess, feeling forced to do that, feels like it's the polite thing to do.
Mhm.
So he is Mr. Inappropriate with pretty much everything he says and does. And he's just one of those really obnoxious characters. And then we later learn that in addition to being obnoxious, well, he's more than that. He's kind of evil too. So uh, that's an interesting part of the film is this cousin Darren. Then you have the two main characters, Liz and Malcolm. And I had trouble, to be honest, Tracy, trusting either of these two. they both took turns being suspicious. Liz is kind of reticent. She's obviously had bad experiences with boyfriends in the past. She's sort of holding that against Malcolm. She has these phone conversations with her friend, and her friend is, basically just making her feel more suspicious about Malcolm. They're cursing. They're using a lot of foul language in the way that they talk. They just don't seem like very pleasant people. I thought Liz
Mhm.
was kind of showing a different side in these conversations with her friend. So I didn't really like her that much. And I didn't really like him either because he's acting mysterious. He's weird about this cake, insisting the cake has to be eaten. I mean, what if she had an allergy to chocolate? Was he still going to insist on that? I mean, this is just bizarre behavior. And then he goes away. He goes back to his office in the city because he has to treat a very ill patient. And then, as you said, he comes back. Liz asks him, how's the patient? And he goes, who? What are you talking about? And they say, oh, yeah, yeah. She died, by the way. That just doesn't make sense. That A, how do you not remember there was a patient? And B, the patient died. That doesn't seem like an obscure fact to me, but he's acting like, almost like Liz is making this up about the patient. What patient? Oh, that patient. Oh, she's dead. Very strange behavior on his part. So I didn't really trust either of them. And I knew one of them had to be the problem here because it's a horror movie, right?
Mhm.
And they're new characters to us. They've been going out for a short time. We don't know that much about them. You figure one of them has to be the root of the problem here. There's going to be some sort of a catastrophe. Who is going to engineer that catastrophe? They kind of took turns giving me the impression that either of them could be the one that's the real problem. So I didn't think
Mhm.
either of them was really a keeper. I think both of them potentially were problems. And then toward the end of the film, we find out exactly which one of the two is really the malcontent, if you will, the one who's going to torpedo this potentially good relationship.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. I think you nailed it with those characters. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I thought they both did like a really great job. The actors themselves. And what's really interesting is there's a lot of mixed reviews about
Mm,
Rossif Sutherland, about how he played this character. So I looked at some of the Reddit threads and that just talking about this movie, and I think 99% of the comments, they were so harsh on his ability in this movie.
hmm,
They didn't like the way he spoke, his dialogue or his way of speaking, his mannerisms, but I think it's like it's all part of the character too. Um, like that's what the character was about. He was sketchy, he was supposed to be
yeah,
charming, but he was suspicious. There's a story there, and I I I don't know if it's people just misunderstanding the movie, but I think a lot of it was just the character development and not the
yeah,
actor himself. And I mean, he is French, so he grew up in France. Believe it or
yeah,
not, he's like a French citizen, um, and he's fully bilingual, and I think that's, like, another piece of it too, like, he's
yeah.
not, 100% Anglophone speaking. He is majority French, so I thought that was kind of interesting, but yeah, I thought the characters, they were excellent, and both actors, I thought they did such an amazing job. And, this movie, the scenery is gorgeous. Like, it really is gorgeous. There's nothing made up about it. There's no, like, CGI, like, as far as the
Hmm.
scenery goes. It is 100% real. It's filmed in Vancouver. Um, so, like, the big redwood trees, the river, like, it's all natural habitat that's there, and it was filmed during the Hollywood strike in 2023. So what is also interesting is right before the strike, Osgood Perkins was filming the movie The Monkey. And then
Right.
the strike happened, so they had to stop that production. And in the meantime, he came to Canada and he built this movie on the script from Nick Leppert because he's also a part of like the Writers Guild in the United States. So he wasn't allowed to have any input into writing this movie. He could only direct it up here with Canadian actors. So
Hmm.
I thought that was really interesting. And
Yeah.
again, this movie, it had such wild reviews. Um, People were just on one end of the spectrum to the other. They were
Right.
saying, you know, it's Osgood's very best film that he's done to date, to I can't believe it. I couldn't watch it. This is his worst movie ever. And there didn't seem to be a happy medium with this movie. It's either you love it or you hate it. And I think it's so weird, but I think that's kind of the way that Osgood Perkins films are. It's like you either really,
Hmm.
really like it or you really, really don't. And this one, I guess, was no exception because there was no happy medium with people on
Yeah.
this one. But all in all, I loved it. I thought it was great. And I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Um, Again, it was so different for me. Like it was just a different kind of a horror film. There was like no big jump scares or anything. And I really liked it. And I liked the actors that played in this movie.
Hmm.
So I thought it was really well done. And I, I wasn't like 100% huge fan of the monkey, but I did really like this piece of work. And of course, I loved Long Legs. So again, I guess it's hit or miss, but this movie, I really did like it. It's a great story. It's kind of like that folk horror
Hmm.
type vibe. And I really think that people should take a chance and have a look at this one.
You know, it's interesting. His last three films, you had Long Legs, which we both loved.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the best films of 2024, I believe.
Yeah.
And then he comes out with two movies this year, The Monkey, which I did not really like. You did not really like either. Um, Others that we've talked to, whom whose opinion we respect, thought very highly of The Monkey. And then you have this movie, Keeper. They're all very different. These films. None of these
Hmm.
movies are the same. You wouldn't know just by watching them that they were made by the same director. So they all have their own feel, their own style to it. I would probably put this one in between Long Legs, which I have at the top, The
Hmm.
Monkey, which I didn't like that much. I would put this one in the middle. I would say it's good, not great, not at the level of Long Legs.
Hmm.
Let's go back to one of the two main actors, Rossif Sutherland.
Hmm.
So he made this film in 2023. So that means he actually filmed this before he started the Fox TV show, which Sue and I love, called Murder in a Small Town. It's in its second season. He plays the local police captain or sheriff, whatever you want to call him, in a small town. It's in the Northwest. And he's a very likable, very moral character. He's a little different in this movie, Keeper. He's not either likable or moral, and he certainly has a more mysterious quality to him. So it's a very different portrayal, but he is great in Murder in a Small Town. I really love
Hmm.
him. And the way that he speaks in Murder in a Small Town is actually similar to the way that he speaks in this movie. He has a speech pattern where at times it's almost like a mumble. He'll speak kind of at a low volume, and it's like his words kind of run together. Maybe mumble is not the right word, but sometimes it's hard to pick up every word that he says.
Hmm.
I mean, most of the words, most of the time, you understand what he's saying, but it's a very distinctive style of speech, and it must have something to do with the fact that he grew up in a different country, and
Hmm.
English is maybe a second language. Um, Although, frankly, when I hear him speak, I don't think it's a second language. I just think he's got a distinctive style.
Yes.
Um, and you have to get used to it. And the more that you listen to him, the more you understand exactly what he's saying. But when you see him in a movie for the first time, yeah, it does seem like he's mumbling at times. And I guess that's
Mm.
what threw a lot of people off. I don't think that has a big effect on this film. I don't think it's really that important a factor. And if you have a real problem with it, just watch it with the closed captions. That
Yeah.
solves the problem. I have trouble as I'm getting older watching movies now. And a lot of times, as great as a lot of these movies are, the sound is not that great. It's inconsistent. So I like having the captions there to reinforce the spoken word. So if
Mhm.
that's a problem, just put the closed captions on and it doesn't become a problem anymore. So I think maybe people are overreacting a little bit with some of their criticism of Sutherland. And I think if they watched him on Murder in a Small Town, which right now is on hiatus, I think it's coming back either in January or maybe in the spring. I think you watch that show, you'll really like the job that he does. He plays a very heroic, moral character, and but he has times when he loses his temper, so he's kind of well rounded. He's worth watching on that show, and again,
Nice.
very different from what we saw in Keeper. As far as my overall assessment of this movie, it does have kind of a slow pace to it. As you said, there's not much in the way of jump scares.
Mhm.
The slow pace, though, is interrupted first by the appearance of the obnoxious Darren. I mean, he's memorable. And the whole insistence on eating the cake on the part of Malcolm. So that does break up the pace, and those scenes kind of catch your attention. And then I think the strong finish with a twist ending, one I did not see coming, was very effective. And I think really made the movie. I think the last 10 minutes of the film, if they hadn't been as good as they were, I would have had a different opinion on this movie. But I
Mhm.
think when you see
Mhm.
those last 10 minutes, it makes you maybe appreciate some of the stuff that came before it. And it
Yes.
kind of motivates you to want to see the movie again, to see what clues you can get from the characters that sort of unwrap the mystery of what they're both about and who the really evil one is here. So I think it's a very worthwhile film. I gave it 3 stars, so I think it's very good.
Nice. Oh, I totally agree, Bruce. That's a good point. Um, some of these movies are definitely worth going back and watching again, and I think this is one of them just because there are so many things I think once you learn what the purpose is for the keeper and how that happens, um, it would be interesting to go back and see all the little flags that were missed along the way.
Yeah.
So that's a good idea. No, I
So
wouldn't
you
do that
gave
for
this
Bring Her
one,
Back, but
yeah, yeah. You gave this 3 stars then.
I did, yes, yeah.
All right. So Tracy and I both agree. 3 stars for Keeper, starring Rossif Sutherland and Tatiana Maslany, both good performances in this one. And then Bring Her Back, the earlier film we discussed. Tracy went 3.5 stars. I gave that one 3. So both good movies, underappreciated in such a strong year for horror. Films that I think are definitely worth a watch. Tracy
Mm.
agrees. Give them a try if you have not seen them yet. So that's going to wrap things up for this hour of the Ghostly Gallery. Tracy, as always, thanks for doing some of the heavy lifting. You did a lot of the heavy lifting on this show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Bruce. These 2 movies I thought were really great, and again, I watched them kind of like in the month of December, so just over the holiday season, and it was kind of really nice to kind of wrap up watching movies on a positive note like this. And there's going to be more great ones to come in 2026, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I am too. Very good. Very good. Thank you to Tracy. Thanks to all of our listeners and watchers. We do appreciate the fact that you took some time out to visit us in this Museum of the Macabre. And we do hope we'll see you again next time, right here in the Ghostly Gallery.